Imagine a world where every word ever written, every picture ever painted and every film ever shot could be viewed instantly in your home via an information superhighway.
It's wild to think about it now, but back in the early to late 1990s, the internet was still very much an unknown entity. To most, this strange and abstract phenomenon was a hard thing to conceptualise, leading to absurd metaphors that in hindsight seem almost misleading. Obnoxiously designed marketing material invited users to surf the web, visit the information superhighway, and explore the strange and wonderful world of cyberspace. For the first time in human history, global instantaneous digital communication was available to all, and no one had any idea of the best way to talk about it. Time magazine ran multiple covers about the web that resembled Silicon nightmares. TV adverts showed nervous onlookers expressing their concerns about this frightening new invention, only to be met with unwarranted sarcasm from some bellend who owned a modem, and 1992's The Lawnmower Man introduced the world to the concept of VR shadding. It truly was a golden age of wonderful, magical shite. In 1997, Jay Tholen was 10 years old. 18 years later, he would go on to develop the wholesome point-and-click adventure Dropsy, but for now he was just one of many bright-eyed kids blown away by the promise of a future that the internet would surely provide. A digital utopia without limits, an online playground that stretched beyond the realm of imagination itself. Of course, as we all know, this wasn't quite what the internet actually turned out to be. Although its impact obviously can't be understated, those early formative years were less about digital utopias and more about browsing crude websites because simply having access was a rewarding enough novelty all on its own. There was no surfing through a digital hellscape, no CGI villages to explore, and much to my personal disappointment, zero VR face-sutting. There were email lists, text-based bulletin boards, and crudely designed web zones dedicated to general hobbies and interests. Insultingly colourful pattern backgrounds, low-quality JPEGs, garish font choices, and due to slow connection speeds and limited bandwidth, gifs of dancing babies to bring a little much-needed movement into these now archaic designs. It was a simpler time. In 1999, Jay got access to the World Wide Web and became, in his own words, blissfully lost in a sea of adware and screensavers. Reality may not have lived up to his expectations, but he was undeterred. I was still riding the high of the weird tech optimism of the day and didn't quite understand the boundaries of what was possible, he told me, so it was all very exciting. Over time, the internet changed. Browsers became smarter, technology became cheaper, and within less than 2 decades the World Wide Web had gone from new and exciting to just another essential aspect of modern day life. Dreams of a digital utopia came true, in a sense, although no flashy advertisements from the early 1990s came close to predicting the global socio-political effects social media would end up having on modern day society. Yet the early days of the internet retain a cultural permanence. Many of us remember them fondly as a crude but exciting era, a relic of a time that feels more like ancient history rather than just a paltry 20 years ago, a reflection more on the speed of which technology has advanced than anything else. When using a smartphone in 2018, it's hard to recall a time when the concept of streaming any video to a device that sits in the palm of your hand still felt like absurdist science fiction. 19 years after Jay Tholen first logged on to the World Wide Web, he's teamed up with programmers Mike Lash and Tori Cochran to create a game that's all about exploring what makes us so nostalgic for that certain period of digital history, as well as realising the dream those early adverts were so adamant would become reality. Hypnospace Outlaw is a stunningly unique game that is at its core a 90s internet simulator. You play as a digital enforcement agent, your goal to prevent online copyright theft, user harassment, illegal transactions, as well as the removal of malicious software such as intrusive adware viruses disguised as helpful tools. Your jurisdiction? A steadily growing collection of primitive websites, all designed to resemble the garish pages that are so indicative of the early internet. At least it resembles the more iconic design elements from that era, relishing in delivering a warped and effervescent take on 90s web design. Every page is stuffed with colourful pattern backgrounds, rotating text, 3D rendered images, low quality JPEGs of poorly dressed teenagers, gifs of dancing pizza slices, highly compressed MIDI music files that range from pleasantly endearing to slightly haunting, each element wobbling into life as the page slowly loads on your primitive browser. It is, obviously, nowhere near as rigid or as flat as actual websites were in the early 90s. It's best to think of Hypnospace Outlaw's liberal approach to modernising classic classic web design in the same way Shovel Knight breathed new life into the 16-bit side-scrolling action game. Both remain faithful to the core elements that defined their contemporaries at the time, whilst quietly bringing them up to date with more modern design standards that iron out all of the original issues that you'd rightfully forgotten. The sites themselves are phenomenal, the team successfully creating an alternate online reality that bears striking resemblance to our version of the era, but passed through a filter of playful absurdity. There are pages advertising a naughtier Dame Dear Analog, complete with a monster collecting game that resembles a child's nightmare about Pokemon. Homepages for fledgling tech giants featuring dour-looking programmers, conspiracy sites packed full of blurry, poorly shot footage of otherworldly creatures, sites that predict the end of times, warning users of the looming threat of Y2K, dawdy full-page advertisements for fast food chains and outlandish products such as Granny Cream's hot butter ice cream.
Granny Cream's hot butter ice cream. We take the hot butter, mix it with the ice cream, freeze it up cool, you can see it on your screen.
It doesn't end there either. Perhaps the most engaging aspect of Hypnospace's fake internet are the pages created by regular citizens of this online realm. Middle-aged users who share life stories, poems and pictures on pages that accurately resemble a website made by someone with a limited grasp of technology. Young teens who lament their high school experience, cyberbully one another by creating clubs dedicated to a mutual hatred of a real-life tormentor, draw derogatory comments about their parents and classmates, and of course share memes. Primarily a dancing, grotesquely anthropomorphic pizza slice, accompanied by its own outlandish theme song.
Pizza.
When I asked Jay what it was like working against this bland canvas, creating his own brands and identities, music and memes for the world of Hypnospace Outlaw, he described it as his favourite part of the project. The fact that I'm creating an entire fake internet means that anything can be justified, so long as it doesn't include post-1999 tech. My side hobby, that I kind of wish was my job, is music production and sound experimentation, so making up genres and recording examples of songs for them has been a blast. Fake games, TV shows, books, bands, etc. are naturally also super fun to write. I could make up all kinds of this crap for 10 years and still not be sick of it. The breadth of creativity on display here makes exploring Hypnospace's peculiar yet eerily familiar world a unique experience unlike any other. Even in the short beta build I was given access to, simply browsing these unorthodox environments is an immersive activity and an achievement in of itself. There's nothing else quite like it. The browser is no doubt the most important tool you have at your disposal in Hypnospace Outlaw, but it's by no means all the game has to offer. As an enforcement agent, you have access to the entirety of HypnoOS, a fictional yet fully featured operating system. If you're tired of browsing the web hunting for violations to report, you can spend time fiddling with system settings, applying a new desktop wallpaper to your digital workstation, and playing music via a media player that harks back to the early versions of Winamp, complete with horrific alternate skins. You can download and install new screensavers, additional pieces of software such as virus scanners, and even virtual pets who, if left neglected, can shit all over your desktop before dying, leaving behind a tiny virtual grave which cannot be moved into your recycling bin. If you're not careful, you can even download malicious programs disguised as helpful professors.
Professor Helper here, the helping man with the helping hand,
which riddle your machine with visually arresting viruses and adware pop-ups. It really is the complete package, and, if you'll excuse this far-fetched analogy for just a second, it's as much a 90s internet simulator as Burnout is an educational tool for safe driving. It offers up a fringe representation of an era still on the cusp of our collective memory, and it relishes in subverting and bending any expectations you may have going in fresh. What's great is that all of this serves as a compelling backdrop for an as-yet unknown narrative. Unlike in the real world, the online realm of Hypnospace Outlaw takes place within a dream, a genuine digital utopia that everyday citizens access when they go to sleep via a crudely constructed cotton headband. It's a fun premise that lends additional depth to the game's overpowering dreamlike presentation. Although the beta is still a little light on narrative, it still features an interesting amount of dynamic storytelling. After uncovering a veritable treasure trove of copyright infringement in the form of a set of child's drawings featuring a copyrighted fish, I got a user banned for repeated violations of my employer's draconian rules. Her friends, multiple middle-aged citizens who all host their pages within the same online community, began campaigning against my arguably short-sighted commitment to my objectives by placing banners in support of their now banned friend, leaving furious messages on their homepages chastising me for my actions. To see this concept explored further in the full release is an enticing prospect. It goes a long way to making the world feel more like a connected environment created by real people rather than just a disparate collection of unrelated web pages. There's a lot of influence from 2015's excellent Her Story here too. Not only can all pages be accessed out of order, as it were, the majority of the more suspicious sites aren't listed in the game's public directories at all. It must instead be uncovered through the use of relevant search terms, their presence hinted at on more easily accessible pages via throwaway comments and seemingly irrelevant text blocks. I'm unsure what the final narrative will end up being. When I spoke to Jay, he hinted that the full game will feature a more discernible plot that will take place over multiple days. But if one thing's for sure, it's that no matter what the Tor story may end up being, it will no doubt be smothered in the same level of sarcasm and humour that is prevalent in the beta. You see, Hypnospace Outlaw is funny. Really funny. Not only are its fake brands and caricatures of internet users hilarious enough on their own merit, but the game uses its unique context to capitalise on nostalgia in order to both subvert and toy with its players' expectations about the period of time it takes influence from. There are great dads about pages being under construction, or unfinished areas that beg other users to help explain how the system works in the first place. If you remember the era clearly, there's a lot on offer here that you'll appreciate. The music is a treat as well. Its low quality MIDI files helping to create a surprising amount of atmosphere to pages while still adhering to the game's obnoxiously loud design choices. The majority of the music is composed by Jay himself, using a surprisingly detailed composing tool that comes packaged with the game. But there's contributions here by YouTube musician Hot Dad too, a personal favourite of mine and a wonderfully apt choice for the project. There's a lot to love about Hypnospace Outlaw. Despite its release still being a far way off, the game is set to launch in late 2018, Hypnospace Outlaw has rocketed to the top of my list of favourite games of the year. Even with a defined narrative being absent in this early build, the whole thing still feels so polished and confident in its design that it was a hugely satisfying thing to spend time with. Browsing the game's websites, fiddling with the operating system's various settings, and laying down the law on those violating the rules in order to earn an in-game currency that could then be spent on new screensavers and themes demonstrates just how much of an accomplishment the game already is. As far as I'm concerned, the full release will purely be a much needed injection of additional content that will hopefully be of the same level of quality as what I've already had the pleasure of experiencing. Hypnospace Outlaw is a fantastic game that I implore you to keep an eye on. It is an innovative, outstandingly produced concept that excels in every aspect of its design. A truly wonderful game. Now all we need is some kind of lawnmower man game that let me shad a low poly lady made of malleable purple ooze, and my thirst for 90s nostalgia will be well and truly quenched. Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. It's been a while since I uploaded anything and I had a really fun time making this one. Thanks to Jay Tholen himself for answering my questions. He's the first game developer I've ever interviewed in like the 7 years I've been messing around in this kind of area, so that was really nice and he gave me some really great answers. I'll have the full transcript of that interview on the website whenever I finish building the website, which might be a while. Anyway, enough of that. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more things like it, leave a comment, give us a like, and of course subscribe. Subscriptions help the channel so much and it's just really nice to see the feedback. I'm getting some, lovely feedback from you lot and I really appreciate it, so that's why I keep going. So yeah, thanks for watching. I think that's it. Yeah, don't have much to say. Wishlist Hypnospace Outlaw on Steam because it's mint and I'm really excited for the full release. And I normally end with something weird, don't I? So I don't know what to say, to be honest with you.